We're on page 392. We're talking about who makes the hamotzi when there's a host and there are guests and there are many people sitting together. Who's the one that you honor with the hamotzi? So we're continuing from what we said yesterday. ויש מקומות שנהגו שאף כשיש בעל הבית מכבדים את הגדול שבהם לברך חמוצי ולפצוע. There are some people who have a minhag. Their minhag is that if there's a great Torah scholar or someone like that in the house, even though there's a בעל הבית, you give the great person to make a blessing. כיוון שבזמננו, because nowadays, בלאו הכי אין הבוצע מתאים לכל אחד שהוא פת שספיר לכל הסעודה, because the whole reason for who should cut the bread should be the host is that we're not stingy with the guests. But being that today, everybody, anyways, can take as much bread as they want. You know, it's not like they portion out the bread at hamotzi. Hamotzi, they just give you enough for hamotzi. You can always take more slices of bread from the middle of the table. Because of that, those who have this custom that they honor a rabbi or someone else to do hamotzi in a situation where there is a host, they have what to rely on. If everybody has their own bread, so imagine you go to a wedding or a bar mitzvah or a Shabbat lunch and they have a roll on everybody's plate. Then the one who's making hamotzi does not have to give bread to every person. In that case, of course, the Baal Bayit can honor the greater one to make a hamotzi because he doesn't even have to give out the bread. ונכון שאפילו כשיש פת לפני כל אחד והוא מברך לעצמו, שיכבדו הגדול לברך תחילה ברכת המוציא. He says, yeah, that really it's a good idea to give the great one to say hamotzi in that situation. אם יש כהן בין המסובים, there's a kohen among the guests. If there's a host, the host takes precedence over a kohen. Before, he should try to say it with the permission of the kohen, if he can. It's not a minhag everywhere, but some people have the minhag. And even if the kohen is the michacham, the Baal Bayit, the host still comes before a kohen who's a Torah scholar. When does the kohen who's a Torah scholar take precedence? Do you remember? Not over a host, he takes precedence over somebody else.
Just a Talmud.
Right, and just a kohen who's not a Tamicham. ואם אין שם בעל הבית, ואם הכהן הוא תמיכם, ויש שם עוד תמיכם, שהוא שווה לו בחומה, מצווה להקדים את הכהן. But if there's no בעל הבית, and there's a תמיכם, and there's תמיכם who's a kohen, it's a mitzvah to give the kohen. ואם הכהן תמיכם, אלא שאינו תמיכם כמו אותו שאינו כהן, אף בזה נכון יותר שכבד הגדול את הכהן, וזוכה לאריכות ימים. And we say that a person, even in a situation where the kohen knows less than the other tamicham, you should still give the tamicham who's a kohen, and he'll merit a long life because he let a kohen do this bracha. That's a quote from Masechet Megillah, that those who respect kohanim merit a long life. V'im ha-kohen am-haaretz, but if the kohen is an ignoramus, v'yesh ham tamid chacham, there's a tamid chacham, tzarich la'akdim tamid chacham, you must give the tamid chacham first. V'asur la'akdim ha-kohen, it's forbidden to give the kohen priority. V'ifligu chazal ba'onsho shel magdim kohen am-haaretz v'tamid chacham. The chachamim in Masechet Megillah speak at length about a person who prefers a kohen over a Torah scholar. ורק לעניין קריאת התורה נהגו להקדים מוקם אפילו הוא המארץ מפני דרכי שלום, כמו שבר עליהם בסימן קוף למנה. Like when we study in chapter, or we didn't study, but they studied in this book, chapter 135, which mentioned that only when a kohen is an amaretz and there's the michacham, that we give the kohen the first aliyah. The reason for that, mipnei dachei shalom, because we want to keep the peace. ומכל מקום, nonetheless, אם רצה תלמיד חכם לתת רשות הכהן לברך, לא מצד חוק ומשפט כהונתו, אלא דרך כבוד בעלמא, רשאי לעשות כן. If the Talmid Chacham wants to give permission to the Kohen who's an ignoramus, not because he's a Kohen, no, he doesn't say, oh, you're a Kohen, you should bless. He says, oh, I want to respect you, you should bless. In that case, he's allowed to do that. Now, what happens at a meal of a Chatan? At the Chatan's wedding, who's the Balabait at the wedding?
The Chatan is providing the meal.
Right?
Is it?
Is he? Oh, when? How much are you paying for your wedding? Don't tell us. I think many people would argue that the father of the bride or the groom or the grandparents, I don't know, so whoever's paying this wedding, that they're the Balabait, you know?
Yeah.
Definitely Bala Suda.
אם אוכלים בסעודת חתן ביום חופתו, נהגים להקדימו אפילו אם יש שם גדולים ממנו. The minhag is to let the chatan feel like he's the balabait. Even if there are other people that are greater than him, most likely there are people greater than the chatan in his own way. Most likely there are Talmidei Chamim there, at least the rabbi who's Mesadei Kiddushin is there, at least the Edim were there. There are at least 1 or 2 or 3 people that are there that are Talmidei Chamim, but over there it's already a minhag to let him do that. Why fight with the Chatan and his Chatan?
Because he's considered king, or
Yeah, though Raphael once said that a Chatan is only a king in relation to regular people. In relation to Talmidei Chamim, who are also kings, Man Malkei Rabbanan, Talmidei Chamim are kings, because they have constant status of kingship, and he only has temporary kingship status, they don't have to respect him as a king. Meaning when they say, please rise for the Chatan, you don't, Talmidei Chacham doesn't have to rise for the Chatan. He should, because somebody looks bad, but the Maaseh, halachically, he doesn't have to.
your Chatan Chacham can give honor to a Kohen with ignoramus. Can he give a Kedima to Chatan?
Seemingly so, yes. But not the Talmid Chacham, not the Kohen because he's an Amaretz, but despite the fact he's an Amaretz.
Oh, I see.
Yep. Hamvarech Yomar Kodam Baracha, the one who blesses should say before the blessing, Birshut Morai v'Rabotai, with the permission of my masters and my teachers. ואפילו הוא בעל הבית או הגדול שבין המסובים שמפני שהוא דרך הנהגה. It's interesting halacha that even if you're the greatest at the meal, you should say. Why? Because we're on page 393. Because it's a way of humility. So what, you're the biggest person in the room. You have to tell everybody you're the biggest person in the room. The source for that is the first Lubavitch Rebbe. And the Mishnah Berurah.
Well, the first Lubavitch Rebbe was way before the Mishnah Berurah.
Wait, before. What is 100 years?
Is that it?
It can be more than 120 years. At best. I would ask you when did Chassidut start, but I'm on the 20th of Kislev. And I don't want to ask a question that they would think I need an answer to. Somewhere around there. Now when he says, Birshut Morai v'Rabotai, I think in all the Nuschot they say that, right? Birshut Rabotai, what should they say? Rabotai, Nevarech, Birshut, Ma'anan, Rabbanan, Rabbanan. Everyone says this, yes? So now look here on page 394, the middle of the page. V'mesubim onim Birshut Shamayim. And those who are sitting at the table, they respond Birshut Shamayim. With the permission of Shamayim. See, when they say Birshut, Maranan, Rabbanan, Rabbatai, with your permission, what are you supposed to say? Okay, fine, I give you permission. What do you respond?
Permission of heaven.
They should respond Birshut Shamayim. Ask permission from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The book Yafet Alev asks why the Ramah doesn't say to respond Birshut Shamayim. It seems to be that some of the Mepharshim say that even Rav Hai Gaon, Rabbeinu Hai Gaon, he said Birshut Shamayim. It's an old minhag. וכשיש שם כהן, נוהגים לומר ברשות הכהן. When there's a kohen there, seems to be there's a custom to say ברשות הכהן. By the way, by the Sfaradim, we pretty much don't say any of this stuff. By the Ashkenazim, there's a lot of this. ברשות this, ברשות that, ברשות. But really, for the most part, when you hear people say, it's always Havlan V'Vrir, ברשות, מלכת ירושלים, בשבת נתן, נברך שרת ושלום. Very few people that I hear start going around the room, ברשות this, ברשות that. Sometimes some places it even comes up with a joke. Bishut the Balabayit, Bishut Balatabayit, Bishut the mother of the Balatabayit, Bishut the birds, Bishut the... I hear all kinds of silly things. Bishut, I was at the table. Bishut the dog, Larry, I don't know what his name was. Yeah. Because they don't, these people are Kaledat. They're like lightweights in Torah mitzvot. Because they say silly things.
What about B'Shut Shabbat Malkada?
That seems to be already
Engraved tradition?
B'Shut Shabbat Malkada, B'Shut Tevosh Mezak Kedisha, B'Shut... I don't know where they come from. Or why they say them even.
Wacky options.
Right. Okay, look later. We're going to talk about more of this stuff later.
But to go back on that, but with all seriousness, should you say Bilshut HaKohen, like if not in a light-headed way, but like
if you feel like it. By the way, really, some people think that it's going to help them because they're doing Bakar Mazon instead of the Kohen. The Kohen didn't give permission, though. This doesn't help. This is assuming the Kohen gave permission. You could say B'Shut HaKohen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you should say that after you've already got the permission.
No, the Kohen feels like you just gypped him out of his blessing.
Well, I mean, better.
So don't say B'Shut HaKohen. No, there's some Kohanim that don't want to do Bakar Mazon. We have a Kohen comes here once in a while. He doesn't like to read Hebrew.
Yeah, no.
If you want to read, it's like, please, you do me an honor if you read. Okay, that's better than B'Shut. We really got his Rashut.
Yeah.
Let's read Maran on top of page 394. Maran writes, this halakha we should plaster it every Shabbat.
We'll find out.
En hamesubin reshaim lit'om. Those who are sitting at the table are forbidden from tasting the bread. Ad shit'om habusea. Until the one who made the blessing tastes the bread. I have a hard time with the next Ramah. I don't do this. I have a hard time with this. Ramah writes, "אבל מותר לתת לכל אחד חלקו קודם שיאכל הוא." But he can give everybody their bread before he tastes his own bread.
No, you said no.
והם ימתינו עד שיאכל הוא, and they should wait for him until he finishes eating. What is the Ramah really getting at? That it's not a safek. It's not a hifsek.
Yeah.
Meaning, because he's still involved in the mitzvah, it's not a hifsek. My question is why? Why does he need to do that? Why does he have to wait till he gives out everybody his bread? Anyways, they can't eat the bread until he eats. So wouldn't it be better for him to eat, then give out the bread?
Yes.
I don't understand the Ramah. I'm not saying it's wrong, which I don't understand. I don't understand why you have to do it.
Maybe it's just like sort of a health issue. Like the person's kind of touching his mouth and then like touching the bread and passing out. Like maybe there's a hygienic kind of approach that if you just first we're just passing it all out and then
we're all
hands go to mouth. Yeah. So,
Okay, chayov. You know, I was thinking maybe also you can get it in a case of a mikshol. What is mikshol? You hand out the bread, and really, what do they do? Have you seen anybody wait to eat the bread till the guy eats his bread?
No.
Oh, maybe not.
only here.
Well, only here. Everybody just eats. He gave me bread. Why shouldn't I eat? I heard hamotzi already. And I think over there, forget what you can do. I think it's a problem. If you're dealing with people who don't know any better, now they're all eating the bread without the bracha. I don't know. ואם כל אחד אוכל מכיכרו ואין כולם זקוקים לכיכר שביד הבוצה רשאים לטעום קודם. But if everybody has their own bread in front of them and they don't need the man's challah, why? Because they came to the table and there are rolls for everybody. So he says hamotzi and then they eat from their own rolls. Rashem litom kodim. They can taste from their rolls once he finishes the bracha before he eats, because they don't have to wait for him, because he said hamotzi for them on their own bread that they're going to eat. I mean, they're not waiting for him to pass around the bread.
Did your mom say this was a suggestion, or this is halacha?
No, he's saying that it's no. He's not suggesting. He's just saying it can be done.
No, when he said you have to pass like everybody and then you eat?
He doesn't say you have to. It says you can pass it out.
Okay.
Wait, so in the circumstance where everybody has their own role, then we
One-
don't need to wait for you to
To actually
take
taste
your
the
own
bread.
bite? We can
Once
taste
the
our
bracha
own
is
bite.
over, they have their own bread. ואם Shabbat, but if it's Shabbat, צריך שיהיה לפני המסובין לחם משנה חוץ מאשר לפני הבוצע, ואז יהיו רשאים לטעום קודם הבוצע. But if it's Shabbat, each one of the people have to have 2 rolls of bread in front of them in order to be able to taste
Oh,
before the Baal HaBayit. We're going to get into the details of that. I'm just reading Maran so you know what we're going to elaborate on now. So what's the reason that they have to wait for his bread if it's Shabbat? Is because lechem mishneh. We said that they don't have to wait for him to eat his bread if they each have their own bread in front of them because they don't need his bread. But now that they only have one roll in front of each of them, they don't have lechem mishneh, and therefore they do need to wait for his bread because they need to do hamutzi on 2 rolls of bread. It's for that reason that on Shabbat they can't do this. They have to wait for him to taste from his lechem mishnah. Okay, that's the way the Mishnah Berurah explains that. Let's keep reading. Under the 2 lines on page 394. Raphael, could you pass this to my father, please? He wanted to see it. 394. Under the 2 lines, Mem Vav. You see the last paragraph? כשאחד מברך ברכת המוציא, when one person makes המוציא, הוא מוציא את כולם מידי חובה, he fulfills the obligation for everybody, אין המסובין רשאים לטעום מבני הפת עד שיטעם המברך. The people can't taste from their bread until the blesser eats his bread. באמת דברים אמורים, when we were saying that that's true, כשהמברך בוצע מן הפת ונותן לכל אחד ואחד. When the man is cutting the bread and giving it to everybody. אבל אם יש פת לפני כל אחד ואחד, everybody has their own bread, ואחד מהם מברך המוציא, הוא מוציא את כולם די חובה, and one makes המוציא for everybody, רשאי לכל אחד מסובין לטעום מן הפת שלפניו, on top of 395, אפילו קודם שיטעם מברך. And he's allowed to שיטעם.
כן.
איזה אחד? שיטעם?
קודם שיטעם, כן.
Yeah. That the one who makes the blessing just makes a blessing for everybody on their own rolls. They can just eat their bread without waiting for him to eat. The same is true about a drink. But everybody has their own glass. And one is saying the blessing for everybody. Everybody is allowed to drink from that glass, even before he tastes his own wine.
Even before the person saying the bracha?
No. Yes, the bracha, but before he drinks.
So specifically
That's what I
for-
mean, before you drink.
Before he drinks, yes.
Like
Wine
Shabbat,
glass.
you have all the little kiddush cups, the little baby ones.
That's right.
Well, it's a little different because a lot of times little baby ones are like on the fountain, so then they're not really filled until you pour the.
No. Well, like you know what we do here. We have the
Dan
plate
has
and
tray.
the
fancy,
little.
Dan has fancy stuff
Yeah.
in his house.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know those
we have the
little-
tray.
The little cups?
The little plasticky things that you fill up and everyone
Oh,
takes one. And
Yeah, or like plastic shot glasses. And
Yeah, I want to say about
That's
the little
nice.
18th of an ounce that you're drinking there. Let's say everyone has their own glass of wine.
Yeah.
Use a glass of wine.
Okay.
Yes?
What? Because then you have the proper shield.
Yeah, let's pretend. Let's just solve any problems that might come up. And I say, L'chaim, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, I have a wine for you, you have a wine for me. You could just drink your wine even before I drink mine.
So the thing is the bread was not Shabbat.
I don't think we do it that way, do we? We wait till you do.
Yeah, I don't think I really. I see. I don't because I don't pour wine for anybody. You don't really wait because I drink right away. Also, the question here is what happens if you all have glasses of wine. The Baal HaBayit makes the blessing, and he starts pouring the wine for his whole family, and you're waiting on him to finish pouring so he'll drink. By the way, you know the way I solve the hygienic problem? Same thing I do by weddings. I never drink from the glass that I pass around. So I always pour the wine into another cup, right after Kiddush. And either I drink from that other cup or I drink from the Kiddush cup, whichever one has more, like whichever one I'm passing around is not the one I drink from. But sometimes you go to the, listen, especially by the old Sephardic families, one guy would drink, pass the next guy would drink, pass the next guy would drink,
Yeah, I
the next guy
know.
would drink.
That's,
By the time we got to the youngest guy in the house,
Yeah.
already, don't worry, he was immune to any illness in the whole world. He was
I've heard stories from my grandparents that when it was done,
You won't get a
take
cold.
the funnel and put it back in the
Right back
bottle.
in-
The original.
for the next time.
Now, a lot of people have this mentality. I still see people do this.
Yeah.
All
Shulchan, by the way, in
leftovers.
Shulchan Aruch, Maran writes it's forbidden to drink from someone else's cup. I don't know if you know this halakha. I just read an article.
Wow.
Just read an article now, mamash last week. It popped up on my email. Somebody they did research that which kind of diseases a person can get from drinking leftovers in other people's cups. So really, not all diseases can stick around in a cup. You know, I was once in someone's house, and all the leftover glasses, the person went around and drank all of them.
Okay.
It was good wine. That must have been Barry's wine. There must have been some of that.
And
Wow.
either they were frugal or they were, I don't know exactly what their situation was, but I saw this and I was like, oh my gosh, that's gross. You don't even know where these people, like, you don't know where they've been, you don't know what they've done. I don't know. But, so this article said that people can get herpes from other people's cups.
Yeah.
I believe they mentioned,
Likeable.
what? I don't want to, there was another one that they mentioned.
Mono.
Yeah, mono, thank you.
Mono.
Yeah.
Mono from cup.
Yeah.
Mono.
Those two are very, and this happens.
herpes.
Maran rules this the halakha that it's forbidden to drink from another person's glass
For health reasons.
for health reasons. The same way Maran rules it's forbidden to put money in your mouth,
Oh.
and then after you touch money, you have to wash your hands. Every good mother told you that. But really, people don't know these are halachot. Now, how does they justify with the kos kiddush, kind of like we were talking about earlier? Well, for a mitzvah, it's a different story. It doesn't have to be that way, though, right? I'm not saying that all those who did that minhag are wrong. What I'm saying is, you don't have to, especially in a world today where people are very particular about things. It could be that 50 years ago, 100 years ago, people were in a different place. But there was once a famous Ashkenazi Chacham, Rav Chaim of Brisk. And the minhag in Ashkenaz was the rabbi would taste from the cup, and the kid under the wedding, the chuppah, then he would give it to the groom, and the groom would give it, and the bride would drink. Everyone drank from the same glass. And Rav Chaim of Brisk noticed that a lot of the brides didn't want to drink because they were grossed out sharing a cup with the rabbi. So what he would do is this may be equally gross for you. You have to forget your 2019 American head. You have to be a little bit shtetl, 100 years ago. Just let yourself think out of the box. What he would do is he would pour some of the wine into his hand and drink from his hand and give the cup straight to the chatan and kala without them having to drink from his leftovers.
Well, it's better.
It's better for
But it's a
them.
little-
If it's better for
for
him, I'm
them,
not sure, right?
it's a
But
little-
it's better for
But it's a
them.
little weird. Yeah. It's a little
Unfortunately, the
weird.
high five was on your bench.
So you should know.
Well,
You should
he
know.
probably-
Rabbi Pelitz brings this in his book, in Chuppah V'Kiddushin. You should know that today rabbis have a lot of cups under the chuppah. The reason for that,
Hygiene.
you would hope it's hygiene. Standard Orthodox procedure in the United States is when a wedding is done, they have more than one glass there, because once the chatan, see, you know what happens? Chatan can drink, they bring it back and they fill up the cup again for the Sheva Brachot. Yeah. But because Chatan and Kala, they're not observant necessarily, and they touch the wine, and the wine becomes yain nesech, it becomes idolater's wine,
Oh no.
and because of that, the rabbi can't drink from the wine. And I always ask myself a question: if you think the Chatan and Kala are pagans, meaning to the point where if they touch wine, they make the wine.
Why are you doing their wedding?
Why are you doing their wedding?
Yeah. Anyway, it's mavushal, isn't it?
A lot of times, mivushal. I did a chuppah not so long ago, and the family of the chatan came to tell me, don't open this bottle. It's not mivushal, and our son, he's not a religious guy. Well, I said, I don't understand. You think I would come all the way here to do a wedding for a person I think is a pagan? Why are you at your own child's wedding if you think he's a pagan? Like, what are you doing here? And then we got one of the relatives of the Chatan came to give it to me. Oh, you're not following halakha. I said, please let rabbis like us who know how to deal with Am Yisrael deal with Am Yisrael, and you stay out of this Am Yisrael business. Me, I work for an organization one of the biggest kiruv organizations in the world. I said, I can help you guys shut down your kiruv organization. If they stopped making rabbis like you, we wouldn't need outreach organizations. And he, for the next 3 hours of the wedding, spent screaming at my wife. I left the conversation screaming at my wife, screaming at her nonstop. Reform. I'm just like, it's unbelievable to me. It's unbelievable. That's what inspired my shiur, Pagans Among Us. There's 3 parts on YouTube. You can't consider people of Am Yisrael to be pagans and take their money and do their weddings, and you can either they're pagans or they're not. It can't be they're both. But in those days, having an extra cup at the wedding could be considered offensive, perhaps. Maybe that's why he didn't bring an extra cup, or some people didn't have another cup, or for whatever reason. Today, the Chatan and Kala even prefer. Like I ask him, how many cups of wine do you want to have? And oftentimes they just choose more because sometimes they're grossed out. I don't know if you ever watch a wedding. The rabbi, so I have my own. I bring a glass, then I pour the wine into it. Then I hand the cup to the Chatan. Chatan hands it to his mother or to her mother, who hands it to the Kala. Then what happens? We sing songs, read a tubah, you put on a talit. In the interim, until we fill up the cup again, sometimes the father of the Chatan tastes it, the mother of the Kala tastes it, the cousin standing around tastes it. It's like a kosher bracha. People have this thing. Well, now we all want to taste from the cup. By the time you get the cup back, people really don't want to use that cup anymore.
Of course not.
So because of that, I do have more than one cup. It has nothing to do though with pagans and everything to do with hygiene. But it's okay. It's okay to do it because of that. Just no wine.
I thought the common practice was to pour, before you drink the wine, pour a little bit into a glass and add wine to it.
For when? For kiddush?
Yeah.
Yeah, because normally you have more guests than your kiddush cup can give.
And that way, before you drink, you're not using your lips to touch the wine.
Right,
first.
that's right. That's what we do this here also. We have a cup and I add just a little drop and then I drink from my cup. So. V'im yesh.
I got a question on that point. It's always been the thing of like, oh, well, this is the cup that we did kiddush on. So this is the blessed wine. So now we got to refill this one. Okay, now let's refill it again. Is that like the proper procedure?
Somebody once brought me a cake and told me this cake came from a famous Hasidic Rebbe. I said, how could that cake come from a famous Hasidic Rebbe? He's been dead for a long time. How stale is that cake?
That makes the cake.
And they said, well, what we do is we had a cake from him. And then that cake, we add crumbs of that cake to a bunch of other cakes. And then that cake to the crumbs of other cakes. And that cake to the other cakes. And this cake has in it crumbs from the crumbs from the crumbs from the crumbs of the cake of that Rebbe.
What happened on Pesach? Did they?
Oh, so wait, before Pesach. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, you guys.
What happened on 100 Pesach?
You never studied the laws of Batel B'Shishim. Nullification in 60. This is a nullification in a million. That's what this cake is already. They have the same. Someone once came and brought me $1 from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. The dollar said 2006 on it.
Oh.
So I said, listen, either I'm crazy or you're crazy, but one of us is. But I have dollars from the Lubavitch Rebbe from when he was alive. Yeah. But when he passed away, unfortunately, he can't give dollars anymore. No. So he told me, no, we mixed the dollars with the dollars.
That's really funny.
So we got, okay.
Yeah.
In that case.
Are your dollars mish?
It's got a
stripe on it.
In that case.
Yeah. It's called liquid cash.
I don't think the Moroccans don't do it too. They take the water from the Baba Sali, they put it in a bunch of other water bottles. Listen, it's not one group has this illness. The illness is all over the place. But when it comes, so they once came to Lithuanians have less patience for this stuff than other people do. So someone once came to a Lithuanian rabbi. We have from the Chalav the Chazon Ish. If I'm not mistaken, the Chazon Ish passed away in the 50s. I don't know which, 56, 58, and didn't live very long into the founding of the state of Israel. And he said, wow, how do you have a challah for the Chazon Ish? I said, we keep it fresh in the freezer. And every simcha we take a little piece of it and we eat from that challah. That's amazing. What do you do for Pesach? For Pesach, we sell it to a non-Jew. So that's not the Chazon Ish's challah. That's Muhammad's challah. You know, that's not a Jewish challah. If you got rid of the challah, it's no longer the Chazon Ish's challah. But you have some weird people that have an attachment to things. The Kuzari writes that, and then when I was teaching Kuzari here, how do you deal with symbolic things in Judaism? The Kuzari suggests, if explicitly or not, is a different story, that really even what we have, which is a room, a place, a Knesset, which is holier than other places, and a Sefer Torah that we kiss more than other things, in a direction we pray more than other directions, those are also little bits of Avodah Zarah. This is what I'm telling you. I'm not telling you now to stop praying or to stop. But in the idea that in a perfect belief in one HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you wouldn't have a place that is holier than other places. Or one object that is more holy than other things. But then not everything that is symbolic is necessarily evil. Kind of like in the Holy of Holies, you have two kuvim. Hashem says you can't make images. Golden image, and we have one inside of the Holy of Holies. Ultimately, the best answer I can give you, there are many philosophical answers. The best answer I can give you is the same God who told us not to have golden images told us to put a golden image there. I mean, more than that, the one who made the rule made an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
But only in one place, and only in one time, and only in one way. There was a famous Gemara, if you remember when Titus, I think it's Titus. I think so. When he came to maybe it's not Titus. When one of the destroyers of Yerushalayim came to the Kodesh Kodeshim, he saw that the two Kuvim were hugging each other. God says they were, and he said, "Wow, look at these Jewish people inside of their holy of holies. They told the whole world about monotheism. Look at them. They worship idols, and not only idols, but these idols are inappropriate with each other in the holy of holies."
Well, it's context.
Right.
Everything's context.
And I think that for Am Yisrael, we have to know that there is room for things to have symbolism, but it's dangerous. It's a very dangerous thing, especially when it's not things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us. The graves, we mentioned the graves of tzaddikim have big problems that happen there. They're serious problems. It doesn't mean that there's no room in it for Judaism. I'm not here, but someone has to be careful with what crosses the line between what is Jewish and what is not. If someone truly has HaKadosh Baruch Hu in their life, real HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what do they need all the other things for? Tamim tiyeh Adonai Elohecha. You should be innocent with Hashem your God, pure with Hashem your God. Someone told me, now, reading Tehillim 40 days in a row, 40 times. I said, what happens what are you praying for? Praying for a shidduch? Okay, you say Tehillim 40 times, 40 days in a row, and then you don't find a spouse. What happens then? Oh, it must be I said Tehillim wrong. I'm going to do it again, until I break down heaven's doors. I think to myself, it's a very silly God you believe in. It's a manipulation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu by doing 40 things, 40 times. Listen, be careful. There's value in praying every single day for 40 days. There's value in praying for 365 days in a row. But the connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu shouldn't be childish. The connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu should be genuine. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is a real tefillah. I'm not mumbling words I don't understand from a book I don't care about because I believe it has some supernatural power. Then your Tehillim is also some form of not pure worship of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tehillim is one of the holiest books to pray, to read, to say. But to what end? If one understands the words of Tehillim. Many times you read Tehillim and you feel like, wow, I thought I was having a bad day. Look at David HaMelech. His life was miserable. I feel it a lot when I read Tehillim. You know, my parents think I'm a bad kid. Look at Avshalom. David. He's running away from Avshalom, his son. How bad are we, really? Adonai marabutzai. Hashem, how much am I suffering? Rabbim kamim alai. There's so many people that are standing up against me. Hapach nishbar, anachnu, the beautiful Tehillim that we read. Sometimes you connect to those words. It's David HaMelech is saying for you things that you would have a hard time formulating in words. That's Tehillim. That's saying Tehillim. That's not because you think it has some magical power to read it forwards, to read it backwards, to read it a certain amount of times. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not silly. He's not a child. To have a real relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes a lot more work. To have a more genuine understanding of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But that's what we're striving for. We tell people, just do one more of this and do one that, and then everything will be better. Maybe yes and maybe not. We're pushing for a quantitative Judaism. Just do another mitzvah, it's all going to be okay. Someone was here last week, got upset at me, I said that. I don't believe that doing mitzvot is a bad thing. To the contrary, the whole my life I'm trying to teach people to do mitzvot. But quality is also important, more important, to know why you're doing a mitzvah, to do a mitzvah properly. What does it help that you're slapping on tefillin every day and you're thinking things you shouldn't be thinking on tefillin, and you don't even know how to put it on properly, and it's sitting on the side of your head and it's not wrapped around the correct way, and you don't know how to make a bracha, and you're so for what reason? Wouldn't it be better for you to put on tefillin properly? To take 5 minutes with Talmid Chacham and learn how to do it correctly? Does it mean there's no value in tefillin? No, of course there's value in every mitzvah you do. But we're always striving for more in Am Yisrael, to do more, to do better, to do pure. How did I get to that from here? You mentioned about wine, about the kiddush, about the kosher bracha. My grandmother had a bottle of wine in her refrigerator. My mother's mother. I once called, I said, Savta, how are you doing? You feeling better? Yeah. I had some from the wine of kiddush. Savta, it's Tuesday. Where do you get kiddush wine? My grandmother would take the wine left over in the kiddush cup and pour it in a bottle. And whenever she wasn't feeling well, she would take some of the wine and put it on her forehead, or put it on her face, or put it on her knees, or put it on her... And she was convinced that it helped her more than going to the doctor did. And you know what? I believe her.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but I believe her. I believe that a person can believe in a Kosh Baruch Hu enough. You want to talk about Kabbalah? They say about the Baba Sali. The Baba Sali, Alav Shalom, when people used to come to him, he would hand out holy water bottles. It was a famous thing Baba Sali did. All kinds of stories. Somebody couldn't walk, the Baba Sali put water on him and he walked. And there's all kinds of, Baruch Hashem, they're not lacking stories here. I read a story from the Gabai, but I'm not from the students of the Baba Sali, I'm just sharing a story I read. The Gabai of the Baba Sali, Rabbi Eliyahu Alfasi, wrote a book about the Baba Sali. And he wrote in there that once Baba Sali gave a couple a bottle of water, and after they left, he started crying. He said, what happened? What are you crying for? He said, I'm praying for the day that Am Yisrael believes in the creator of the universe just as much as they believe in my water bottles that I filled up in tap water. So I pray for the day that Am Yisrael doesn't need to say, oh, can I get holy water from the Baba Sali? Instead, they could just go pray to God themselves. This is something we have to think about. A serious cheshbon nefesh. Am Yisrael has to do a serious calculation of are we missing the picture entirely about relations with Kosh Baruch Hu? Baruch, don't cut that tangent out. Just if we can make it a separate clip, I'm going to put Yitzchak on it. 395. Im yesh lifnei hamvarech ka'alechem shalem. If there is in front of the person who's making the bracha a whole loaf of bread, ufnei mesubim en kigal shalem el purusot, but the people in front of them only have slices of bread. צריכים המסובים לטעום תחילה מן הפת השלמה, שבני המברך, אחר שטעם המברך, ואחר כך אכלו מן הפת שבניהם. If you have slices of bread in front of you, and the person who's making hamotzi has a whole loaf of bread, you should wait till he gives you from his loaf of bread and not eat from your slice of bread. This is not just on Shabbat with the Mishnah. There's an ideal in halakha we're going to see later to make a bracha on a whole loaf of bread. Some say it's better to make hamotzi on a sandwich, on a roll, before you cut it and make it a sandwich. Now, is this actually a halakha or not? I don't know. The source of this halakha seems to come from the first Lubavitch Rebbe in his Shulchan Aruch. But Rav David Yosef here wants to say that there's smuchin as it. There's some proof to this. Later we're going to say if everybody has a glass of wine. But the glass of wine that you have in front of you is pagum. It's lacking for whatever reason. And the host is making a bracha on a glass of wine that's a good glass of wine. It's better to wait for his glass of wine than for yours. Meaning, you have even something that's inferior or superior in terms of quality that you wait for somebody else. But I'm not saying it's a halakha that must be halakha, but it's good to know. 396. ובשבת ויום טוב, and on Shabbat and Yom Tov, שצריך לברך על הלחם משנה, you have to make a blessing on לחם משנה. What does לחם משנה mean? Two full loaves of bread. צריך שיהיה לפני כל אחד מהמסובים lechem mishneh. Every one of the guests have to have his own lechem mishneh, כדי שירצו עליו, so they can make a blessing on it. ואז על שהם מתאמרים לפת שבניהם קודם שידם מבוצע. And then they could taste from their bread before they eat his bread. So let's imagine there's a basket of rolls on the table, and there is an opportunity for you to make hamotzi with lechem mishneh, or to have two and then eat on your own from your own bread. Maybe that's okay. אבל אם אין לפני כל אחד מסוים lechem mishneh, רק כיכר אחת שלהם, but if there's only one loaf of bread in front of you and he has two, and הם מרשים איתו מן הפת שבניהם עד שיטעמו מן lechem mishneh שלפניהם ברך. They have to wait till the host passes out the lechem mishneh, because, like we said, the only reason they can eat their own bread after his blessing is because their bread is independent. They don't need his bread. But because on Shabbat you need lechem mishneh, so you also need his bread, and therefore you need to wait for that bread to go.
So
Or at least for him to taste it.
you need to eat from the lechem mishneh.
Yeah. אם ברך הבוצע ברכת המוציא על הפת. If the one makes the blessing of המוציא on bread. ולאחר מכן, קודם שטעם נתן מן הפת לכל אחד מהמסובים. And before he tastes, he gives bread to everybody at the table. אף על פי שכבר סיים מברך מן הפת לכל המסובים, למה שמתו מן הפת שבניהם, קודם שיטעם מברך. He gives out bread to all of you, but he still hasn't tasted his own bread. You can't taste from the bread until he eats his own bread. ולכתחילה, and it's ideal, יטעם מברך מן הפת קודם שייתן ממנו לכל אחד מהמסובים. ברוך השם. It's better for the one who's making hamotzi to first taste from the bread before he hands out the bread to everybody else, like I told you in the beginning. A lot of the Ashkenazi rabbis disagree with the Ramah, and the best answer we give for the Ramah is the Ramah is not telling you to do this. He's not telling you to give out the bread and then taste it. But the Ramah is telling you that if you do that, it's okay. But not that you have to do it that way. The Ramah would agree that if you eat the bread first, that's okay.
So, you know, the problem is that if you're not aware of the whole situation when you come into it, it looks like the host is eating the bread first, and then you have to wait until he eats the bread, and then passes around the other bread, and he's already talking to everybody who can't answer until they eat their own bread.
What if he just, how long does it take for a host to take a bite and then keep slicing while he's chewing his bread? It's not like he's eating his bread and dipping it in hummus and, you know.
90 seconds at the worst.
How long does it take? Why? I take a bite and then I keep slicing. Then between the next bread, I take the rest of my foot. Shalom Yisrael.
Well, that's you.
Do other people take longer than that?
Some people do.
Well, they just sit there and munch
They
on their
just
bread.
they start talking. You know, they're in their own world. They talk.
And everybody else being quiet.
It's like being at the dentist, you know.
What do you know about dentists? So, that's on camera, bro. I have no idea what it is. Okay. 397. ואם כל אחד מהמסובים מברך המוציא בעצמו, and if every one of the guests made המוציא on his own, אלא שאין לפני כל אחד כיכר לחם, but they don't have their own loaf of bread, ואחד מהם בוצע ונותן מן הפת לפני כל אחד ואחד, נכון שהבזה תעמוד בפת עד שיטעם הבוצע. If he has the bread and they all make their own brachot and then wait for his bread, I don't know why you would ever do such a thing. But they did. They should still wait for him to taste from the loaf that he has before they eat bread.
Wait.
Why do they need to? Why do they have to make?
Imagine I have a loaf of bread, none of you have bread. And each of you say,
Why?
Well, you wanted to say it together with me.
Okay.
Yeah? By the way, this could happen.
But I mean, it's not
Listen, here
over bread.
we sing Hamotzi, right? And then let's say everyone decides to sing Hamotzi together with me. They shouldn't do it. They did it. Now, if I start handing out bread but I didn't taste yet, you still shouldn't eat from the bread until I taste. Let's say it's a very unusual situation to me. I can't imagine where that's a normal situation. Oh, unless you're like in my father-in-law's house. Remember I told you that everyone makes Hamotzi, and then he makes Hamotzi and cuts and gives it to everybody else? It's a very unusual thing. It's like the case that is so unusual, they make into a norm. But I guess that's a place where it does happen.
Maybe they're trying to publicize the halakha.
They're trying to teach the halakha.
Yeah, did you
You never know.
see how beautiful the Torah is? We got like this hidden halacha up here.
Okay. Let's do another halacha or two. Yes.
When you asked about the wine, so you filled like a wine to the racha. When you pour on a little glass, you drink it and then you pour it into everybody else's glass, but you need more, so then you have to refill
secret
the
letter.
original cup. Now, there's a little bit left in
publisher.
there, right? You have to keep a little bit left and then you fill it up again.
Yeah, you don't have to keep a little. That's again like the challah, the honey cake from that Hasidic rabbi.
Okay.
You don't have to fill up. Nobody at the table has to taste from the wine anyway. Remember?
Yeah.
Once the
Funny.
host, once the host tastes from one of the people's house, I don't taste it.
I thought in front of you, but on the side you have to hear it. Right?
No, what if there's 1,000 people that are listening to you do kiddush? You give kiddush to everybody?
Well, I don't know if it's any question on the people.
It happens a lot. Chabad Pesach Seder, or an yeshivot,
Yeah.
or in a seminar, like a Pesach hotel or something. That happens all the time. Not everybody has to taste from the kos. The only reason they taste, remember, mipnei chibuv mitzvah, to show how much they love the mitzvah.
So it's just hearing it.
Yeah. And the host has a drink. Sometimes what I see is people are so afraid of everybody getting from the cup, the host doesn't drink enough wine. And everybody's in trouble.
So he has to have the right shield.
Okay, now someone want to say that all their wine adds to his wine. I'm not sticking my head in this right now. But the Maaseh, let's say they leave some wine, they keep adding it. That's what they do. In my house, most of the time I just pass around the bottle of wine. Everybody should have wine in their own glass, and like I said, they can wait for me to drink and then drink.
Mm-hmm.
So you're actually doing
But
it-
there's nothing wrong with talking after the host drinks it. Before you drink your wine.
Technically not, because if you wait till the host drinks, then already you fulfilled your mitzvah of kiddush.
So it isn't important to wait till you drink it before you talk.
Correct. By kiddush, by hamotzi is different. Hamotzi you're going to eat from the bread. That's different.
So all you have to do is hear Kiddush Friday night and Saturday. You don't have to hear it.
Yeah, by havdalah you do the same thing.
No, but I was under the impression that Friday night you actually had to do it. You had to actually drink it. Other times you didn't have to. Not true then.
No, kiddush on Friday night and havdalah Motzei Shabbat have the same laws.
Ah, so we have
They're
to hear
both
it.
biblical. So I mean, the difference between Friday night kiddush and Shabbat day kiddush is one is biblical, one is rabbinic. But I can't see why that would make a difference in terms of taste. Happy to be wrong, but I don't think so.
Because you only have to hear it.
Correct.
Okay.
Let's do one more halacha. Top of page 398, Maran Tezain. En habotzea rishai livtzoa. The one who makes the blessing is not allowed to begin tearing the bread, cutting the bread. Ad shichle amen mipnei rov haonim. Until he hears amen being said from most of the people's mouth. That's the Maran, the Brachot. The Rambam rules that way. Maran rules this way. Yes.
People aren't paying attention. This happens a lot of times. It'll be a kiddush at the shul, and the rabbi says it, and everyone's schmoozing and blah blah. You can't even hear them say the bracha.
Not in my bit of knesset.
I'm
Well,
saying, but
no,
like
but in
the matzah,
general-
that's something that
Happens?
happens.
In general, yeah. Let's
Yeah.
say no one
Same
says amen. So then
Yeah.
what happens?
Or 3 people do because they're the only ones who can hear it.
So you can't cut the bread until everyone's.
Is that a common thing that happens?
Yes.
People add kiddush and they don't hear the kiddush?
The people are going and they're getting their plates of food, and this is
Yeah.
happening.
So that's true. I've seen it.
When I was a kid, they had a rule you couldn't even touch the kiddush food till after kiddush.
Yes,
That should
that's
be
the
the rule.
rule,
Doesn't
but
mean the adults
everybody
are
breaks
following
it. No one follows it.
What?
I follow it, but no one else. follows it.
Ridiculous.
Does you?
So you are. I was once at a bar mitzvah like that. I waited for everybody in front of me in line, Somehow I still stood in the same place in line. By the time I got to the food table, there was no food left.
I was gonna say you didn't get any
It was one of the 10 plagues. It was the locusts were attacking the
Well,
table.
Are you talking
That's-
about hamotzi or kiddush?
Both, but
Same,
now
okay.
I'm talking about hamotzi.
Hamotzi. Oh.
By the way, some say the Beit Yosef writes that you can't taste from the bread until you hear everyone say amen, but cutting you can. There's an argument about it, but the bottom line is it's the same thing. How long does it take to answer amen?
Doesn't.
Doesn't take long.
The idea is you shouldn't say
Second.
Hamotzi min haaretz. Amen. Eat your bread. This is like a normal human being would do.
But it's possible that some people won't know to say amen.
Right, so I think we mentioned before that if people don't answer amen their bracha, it still counts for them.
Yeah.
Remember we said that somewhere here?
Yeah. A couple of nights ago.
That was it was maybe 2 weeks ago. Here, look. On page 385. Look at 385. So 385, look under the 2 lines. In the first paragraph, the last sentence of the first paragraph. V'yanu amen achar birkato. They should say amen after his blessing. But if they didn't say amen after his blessing, they fulfilled their obligation. Let's look at the Rambam. So if you open up Sepharia,
Wait, where was that in here? 385.
385, the last sentence of the first paragraph in the middle of the page. So we go to Sepharia.
You got it.
Want to click Halacha, Mishneh Torah, laws of blessings. So in the Sefer Ahava, you click blessings. Chapter 1.
So if you don't say it, then what?
You still fulfill your obligation.
See which halacha book is it?
Hmm?
Which book?
If you click Halacha, then click Mishneh Torah.
Oh, Mishneh Torah.
Mishneh Torah. Then you want to look in the book called Ahava. You scroll till you find the book Ahava. It's like the second. Then you click blessings. In blessings, you want to go to the arrow on the top. And then click chapter 1.
Vav. No, that is the wrong source.
Chapter
Mitzvah
1.
Naseh Min Torah.
Chapter 1, and then you're going to go to Halacha. You go to Halacha. Yud Aleph, 11.
Oh yeah.
I just sent it to your Google Classroom. Rambam writes, Kol HaShomea beracha min haberachot mitchilata ועד סופה. Anybody who hears a blessing, any blessing, from the beginning till the end, v'nitkaven latzet ba'yidei chovato, and he intends to fulfill his obligation there. V'af al pi shelo ana amen, even though he didn't answer amen, he fulfills his obligation.
How far do you carry that?
Well, so here's very important. If you don't say amen, but it works for you, but you have to have intention to the words that the person is saying. If you're chit-chatting with your friends during the rabbi's kiddush, you don't answer amen because you're talking. You didn't even get any mitzvah for kiddush, so you have to do kiddush over. I've been in my Shabbat table, students of mine, people that I trust, not my random guests. And somebody comes, their kids are talking to them, I know they didn't hear my bracha. I said, come next Sunday, you have to do kiddush again. Take a glass of wine, wait till everyone goes to watch a movie, do kiddush again. Because you didn't fulfill your mitzvah of my kiddush. Not to embarrass them, but to help them out here. That happens a lot. Now Maran rules this. If you want to click again on Halacha, click Shulchan Aruch. Yeah, and then click Orach Chaim. And you want to go to chapter 213. Mahan writes here in the second halakha in 213, bit. En hamevarech motzi acherim, the one who makes a blessing, does not fulfill the mitzvah for you. Elim ken yochal v'shtei mahem, unless he's eating and drinking. He can't make a shakol on your cup if he's not planning to drink anything.
Oh, good.
Yeah, you have to have someone who drinks with you. Vein yotzim b'shmiatan shemitkavenim elav, vaz yotzim b'shmiatan shemichavim elav. And they, if they intend, they have kavanah for every word he says that he's saying for them, they fulfill their mitzvah. Afilu lo yanu amen, even if they don't answer amen.
Saying kiddush, let's say for your spouse. You heard her and you were yotze in the shul.
But you're going to drink now, Hagefen, no?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're making a new hagefen basically.
Yes. Alright, so let's stop here for tonight. We'll continue next week, Monday. No holidays or anything Monday. We'll be here. I have Kolel next week, Monday, Tuesday.